Coach, you've talked a lot about the small details and the way the guys have really started to hone into being good in the practice room and outside of it. I know you don't always like to pick someone or pinpoint someone, but who would you say has surprised you the most in the way they've stepped up?
You mean away from the room?
Yes.
I think overall, we've done a pretty good job. I think that's one thing that's probably contributed to some of the success we've had this year is, guys like Kyson, especially, the younger guys figuring out how to live their life away from the wrestling room. Maybe didn't do quite so good of a job last week because I know he said his preparation wasn't his best week of preparation away from the room. But, I think that's a big detail and making sure that when you get to the scale, that you feel good when you get to the scale, regardless of how your workouts were, maybe 3 or 4 days out. That last 24 hours, that last 36 hours is really important. So we talk about it a lot. It's not an easy thing because it's got to be something you always are doing. So it's easy to get away from you if you're not on top of it. And we got to really do a good job down the road with that.
How would you say, his maturity to have the guts to tell you like, yeah, I didn't prepare as well this week?
I think that's growth for him, owning it up, saying, you know what, I probably didn't do this right or that right. I mean, he mentioned a couple details, that he thought he could have maybe done better with his weight. And in a 1 hour weigh-in, you're the first guy off the scale on the mat. If you look at that match, he got tired in the third period. And it's okay to get tired if you're scoring a lot of points, but we probably weren't scoring enough points to get tired, and it's always a credit to the other guy, too, a little bit. The opponent's always, if you're getting tired, he must be making you tired a little bit, but I think he made it a little harder on himself than he needed to. So I'm curious to see how he bounces back. He's got a tough opponent tomorrow night, and so far this year that he hasn't lost much, but the time he lost before, he did a really good job. We lost at Oklahoma on a Friday night, and he wins at Oklahoma State on a Sunday against the top 6 guy. So he's proven he can do it, and he's proven that he's definitely one of the contenders at 125.
How have you seen a guy like Ramzan really bounce back from a tough loss?
He's also had some losses where he's came back, and he needs to continue to do it again. He's trying to figure out. It's the first time in a lineup all year long in folk style wrestling, so there's an adjustment. So he's figuring out some things that'll be really valuable for him as he goes on in his career. And in this crazy COVID world, I think he's still a freshman, so he's going to have plenty of opportunities to figure it out even more.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, how are you guys feeling? Kind of having a match on Wednesday as opposed to like maybe on the weekend or Friday.
I think everybody's excited. I think we got done Friday night, so we got done fairly early in the weekend, and gave him a little time off on Saturday. We trained real hard on Sunday, and we're going to get a workout in here and jump on a bus in a couple hours. And I think they're excited. I think they know what's in front of them. They know they've got another really good opponent, another good opponent on the road, and another good opponent on the road that's got a big crowd behind them. And so the Missouri Tigers will be sitting right on top of us, and we know that. And so far this year, we've responded pretty well to that. And it'll be a great dual meet.
Sorry. No, you go ahead.
What are some of the matchups that you're looking forward to watching?
Well, I think there's a bunch of matchups that are, I think there's probably 5 or 6 that if you study wrestling are probably considered toss-ups. I mean, obviously 97 is a key matchup that everybody's really curious to see because Elam's a top 5, top 6 guy, and Younger's really, continuing to come on. I think that's going to be a big match for sure, and heavyweight, and there's just a bunch of them.
How big is it for your team's training and, preparing for the end of the season to put them in arenas like you and I, like tomorrow night, where they, the crowd hates them essentially? What is that like for them?
I like it. I think it causes them to really focus, and I think they have to learn how to block out that stuff, and I think it'll make their Big 12 tournament a little bit easier because obviously we go down to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is going to be really gunning to get us again this year, get everybody because that's their home turf. And then obviously the NCAA tournament will be packed as always. So I think it's just good practice. We've been fortunate with our schedule that we've had a lot of big crowds this year.
Of course, Missouri beat Arizona State the other day. You guys didn't have the chance to compete against them, of course, due to COVID. How big of a factor do you think that'll play into perhaps tomorrow's result, or do you really not think that's?
I think it was a good dual meet. I watched it, obviously. I watched Missouri and Arizona State the other night, and, some great matches there. And, a chance for us to look at Missouri a little bit. I hadn't looked at Missouri a lot this year, but obviously this week we have. And so, like I said, we're going to have a good dual meet. They've got some really tough individuals and some really tough weights. And, it's going to be senior night there, and they know what's on the line. I think they've got one loss in the Big 12, and they'd sure like to give us a loss.
I know we've asked you a lot about, preparing Sam to go in to close out the duel, how he felt about taking on that pressure. But Bestida also had a certain amount of pressure. He was the guy to get the bonus points. What were the conversations with him before he went out? What were they like after?
Well, early on when we were getting ready to decide, I knew that you and I wanted to flip to see what weight to start at. I asked Sam, all right, we can start it. We wanted to get that 125 match out there early, which maybe was a bad decision now. But so I said, we can start at heavyweight or we can start at 125. Sam, would you rather be first or last? This was a discussion we had right before. And he said, I want to be last. So that told me that he had a lot of confidence in himself and a lot of confidence in his ability, because I think he knew that it could come down to the last match. And so he wanted that. It's kind of cool when a guy wants the ball in the basketball analogy and there's 5 seconds to go and, the guy tells the coach in the huddle, hey, I want the ball. That's kind of what I got from him. So we gave him the ball, and obviously he delivered. And, Younger, he obviously has figured out this U.S. Point system really well. He knew that if he went out and got a major, we had a chance to win the dual meet. So you could tell, especially the third period, he was on a mission to get bonus points for his team. And that's a pretty big thing for a guy that's so new to this kind of wrestling.
What do you think has really driven him to, what clicked, from the switch of struggling on bottom or really to acclimate to that new style to where he is now, where he is very visibly confident?
Yeah, he's got more confidence. I mean, we got work to do there yet. I mean, we're far from out of the woods there, and he's got we'll really see going down the Big 12s in the NCAA tournament just really kind of what kind of skill level he's got there, because he's going to be tested at the highest level there. But he's a competitor. Like the dude really wants to win, and he'll leave everything out on the mat. And that was one thing. Even when I was recruiting him and watching video of him internationally, I could see that there was a guy that just, was a competitor. And that's the thing he's got going for him. And so he continues to get better, and it's fun, and we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a great match. I know he's excited about it. He wrestled this guy last year and actually lost a close match. Got ridden out the third period, lost a riding time and a stalling point to lose by 1 last year to Elam. So he wants to prove that he's in that match.
I guess just like last question, how much do you guys relish going into these hostile environments and getting up the win like you did?
I don't know if we relish them. It just kind of is what it is a schedule. And I like to schedule tough teams, and I like to schedule tough teams that have great fan bases. And I think you and I has really done a good job in creating a fan base, and we both talked it up last week, and there was 5,000 people there. I'm sure we'll have something similar tomorrow night in Columbia. So that's just fun. I think that's why you go to college and wrestle. These guys are all performers, and they get to perform. They like to perform in front of a lot of people, and we'll get that opportunity again tomorrow. Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet. Sam Scott.